Optimists view artificial intelligence as the solution for practically everything. How will we take care of global crises in the future? With AI. How will cars navigate without drivers? With AI. How will we finally secure world peace? With AI. But who should be held responsible if AI causes damage or injury? The software, the user, or the manufacturer? This time around, we'll be looking at that question and many more posed by the field of artificial intelligence. Welcome to Tomorrow Today.
It's nice to meet you.
Artificial intelligence will change our lives in fundamental ways. But who should control the development of this powerful technology? Should it be driven by large corporations? Or can it also be made available to any developer or user as a public good? The Technical University of Munich is an important center for AI development and research. Our university is considered a leading university in Europe, but in particular, we're at the head of the pack in the fields of robotics, machine learning, and perception. Along with around 50 other universities and companies, the TUM is involved in the AI Alliance, a project initiated by the Meta and IBM groups for the development of artificial intelligence. Institutions like CERN are also members. Close collaboration between research, industry, and society is crucial. This means that we want to work together to advance responsible technologies. But we also want to make them transparent, understandable, and available. And I would say a very important contribution from industry is to make resources available, but also expertise, especially in AI, where many leading minds are also anchored in industry. Some of those leading minds, however, are not usually associated with serving the public interest. How much real influence, for instance, will Meta, which also owns Facebook and Instagram, have on the AI Alliance? How trustworthy are such companies when they say they're committed to transparency and the common good? Members of the Lion Association are critical of such an alliance. A decentralized network of scientists, IT experts, and laypeople, Lion advocates for open access to artificial intelligence. The community views itself as an alternative to the commercialization of AI and doesn't want to leave this field to big tech alone. Lion stands for Large-Scale AI Open Network, and the idea behind it is to create an open-source community of people who want open-source AI, something like an open-source ChatGPT that anyone can download. That we bring these people together to work on free, open, transparent AI. The association's founders fear that companies, driven by commercial interests, could simply revise the promises made by the alliance when they get in the way of higher profits. So, is there a danger that developments financed with taxpayer money might be used by large corporations for commercial purposes? Sami Haddadin doesn't think so. At the end of the day, of course, we also want to ensure that the things that are developed there are not all lumped together and simply exploited. But I think there is cooperation at the table and trust. Despite the reservations, the challenges posed by AI development are so huge that no one company can tackle it alone. Basic research at universities needs expertise from firms to develop market-ready products. What we're doing here means that globally, many of the most important players have recognized that we must do this together. We need to work together to create the foundations for this technology to become available, and that it should ultimately reach the real world via products, services, and above all, via open source. That's the driving concept, and it's very important to us. Open source is also the foundation for the Lion community, which has already developed very successful products based on it. One example of how the whole thing can work is our LeoLM, which is a German open source model just like ChatGPT. You can download it, and the more advanced version of it is just as good as ChatGPT. And it's even better at translating between English and German. But transparency won't solve every problem with the technology. Take copyright issues, for instance. Recently, the New York Times and several authors filed a lawsuit against OpenAI because its chatbots use their texts to train artificial intelligence. Lion was also sued because the sources in the image databases it uses are always clearly marked. We just put the links, which are listed in Common Crawl anyway, so in this non-profit research database, and we make the data that belongs to it accessible to the public. It was always in the public domain, but filtering it out was a pain, so we just make it less annoying and easy to check. That means some people pictured in the databases were identifiable. Many legal issues are still unresolved. This is slowing down development for both corporations and non-profit organizations alike. Sami Haddadin and Christoph Schumann agree on one important point. The state in Germany, here in Bavaria, but especially in Europe, has clearly invested too little. It's a shame that countries didn't recognize this much earlier and say, we're investing so that this technology will be developed by us. In other words, a kind of Apollo program for AI that will help us all to work better, live longer, and be healthier. That would be so great, but states haven't done that. If Europe doesn't want to fall even farther behind in the race, it'll have to invest more in the development of artificial intelligence.
At the end of 2022, the company OpenAI launched ChatGPT, an interactive chatbot that answers questions using knowledge harvested from the internet. Within a week, the platform had 1 million users. But what has the AI tool really done for everyday life? Has it, for instance, actually changed learning and working at schools and universities?
Hallo.
Hi, nice to see you. I'm not actually real, but you probably already knew that. There are probably multiple versions of me now, because ChatGPT exists and has become a hot topic. I was also created by computer software. Does that make me intelligent? Development of animated avatars like these has been optimized by AI systems like ChatGPT, but it hasn't changed learning dramatically yet, at least not for the students at this school in Hamburg. When I do use it, it's more for research, to understand a particular topic better so I can perform a task better. Instead of using Google, I just use ChatGPT as a research tool to understand a topic. ChatGPT sometimes writes pretty strangely, so I just look for stuff using normal search engines myself. I like to be responsible for my own work, to have control over it, so it's just not that relevant for me. After ChatGPT was launched, kids did try to use it at school and to do homework. But teachers have since learned how to recognize that by asking, what is a student really capable of? And where did AI perhaps help? The novelty is worn off, but we have to educate the students to use it consciously, as a work tool, with the emphasis on work and not on tool. Because we all like convenience, and it's appealing to get results quickly, but that doesn't help us. A fast overview of a topic, a new recipe, or a request for a fairy tale. The text tool offers plausible responses to pretty much any demand. But is that intelligence? The technology is making us ponder that question.
It's
brought the issue to the fore because although many people have been using AI all along, they don't see it as artificial intelligence. Unlocking your cell phone, using search engines, looking for recommendations, that's all AI too, but it isn't interactive with a chatbot that gives the impression that it's thinking. Probably the most important question at the moment is what AI should be allowed to do. ChatGPT can generate porn, content that glorifies violence, fake news, fake websites, disinformation campaigns. Ethical filters can identify and reject some of it, but software like that can't recognize everything. The explosive growth of AI applications is making even some insiders at IT companies nervous. Development has been compared to pandemics or nuclear war.
When you see
that it can be used to train things like drones and other devices that are then allowed to search for targets on their own, that really seriously worries me. Of course, we also need international agreements here. Most research in the field focuses on assisting people and making work easier, but AI can be used for much more.
To address other major problems, for example, like those involving military conflicts, Swiss researchers are looking at artificial intelligence for the UN. To support its Blue Helmet peacekeepers, they're trying to identify signs that indicate when a violent outbreak is imminent.
War, violence, displacement. The people of the Democratic Republic of the Congo know them all too well. A UN mission to the conflict region is supposed to help stabilize it. What if artificial intelligence could recognize the signs of impending outbreaks, providing peacekeeping forces with key support? That's what Menatala El-Assadi is working on at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, or ETH, in Zurich. Her team feeds data on the country's past conflicts into AI software. We can see what their coordinates are, so where they happened, and we also know when they happened, so we can then see how the conflicts arose. The AI processes thousands of pieces of information, including reports from the media or UN peacekeepers. That's enabled the researcher to retroactively identify signs certain violent outbreaks were impending. For some events, you can recognize patterns, but it depends on how systematically the data is recorded and its quality. So, how systematically these conflicts also produce data. The aim is, with AI's help, to recognize the signs of impending conflicts. That would be very useful information for the UN's 90,000 Blue Helmets worldwide. The organization's peacekeeping missions have proven effective, says security policy expert Andreas Wenger. We can see that conflict hotspots spread less quickly and widely, and also that the difficult transition from war to peace can be managed more swiftly. And of course, the better the information, the more forward-looking it is, then the better the UN peacekeepers will be able to work. That's why the Swiss Institute's president has come to New York to seal a cooperation agreement with the UN. Today we'll cement this cooperation at an institutional level. The UN doesn't often make such agreements. So this is a huge opportunity for the ETH, but also for Switzerland.
The
ETH has a lot to contribute by combining strengths in computer science and social sciences to help us recognize conflicts and potentials earlier, act faster, and provide more targeted support. There's an incredible amount of potential.
Generative AI has enormous potential for good and evil at scale.
Artificial intelligence can and must also serve peace and security. The UN Security Council, which is responsible for world peace, dedicated a session to AI. Swiss representative and ambassador Pascal Barisville says it's vital for the UN's huge data set to be evaluated more systematically. However, AI might help to predict developments faster and more accurately, but it can never replace the need for people to take responsibility. Ultimately, human dignity must be at the heart of these efforts, and the international community, countries, the UN, and the Security Council must take responsibility in order to find sustainable peace. The UN can often do little, though, like in the current situation in the Middle East. In the future, could AI recognize when a war is set to break out? War outbreaks remain very difficult events to predict because, fortunately, they're very rare events. and events can be better predicted the more frequently they occur. What we focus on are very localized conflict dynamics over a very short period of time, so we have more information, and artificial intelligence systems can make a contribution, especially when they're combined with human expertise. Algorithms that can promote peace are still in their infancy, and training them on solid data is an ongoing process. But in the future, humans and AI will work together to help identify potential conflicts before they occur.
Though it's no longer in its infancy, autonomous driving isn't all grown up just yet. Functions like emergency braking, keeping the car in its lane, or other driver assists might have grown quite common. But computers still aren't quite ready to take the wheel completely.
It's already being showcased in promotional videos and at motor shows, the dream of self-driving cars. Just climb in and let artificial intelligence chauffeur you wherever you want to go. But the systems aren't that far along yet. The more driving tasks an autonomous vehicle takes on, the more so-called corner cases you get. Those are quite rare occurrences that also must be tested for and solved. What's challenging is there are theoretically an infinite number of them. Expert Jan Becker doesn't see unrestricted, fully autonomous driving for at least another decade. Still, what are already being sold and will grow increasingly common are assist systems and highly automated driving. There, I can let myself be driven on certain sections of the route, like in stop-and-go traffic on the way to work. Such vehicles have already hit German streets. Mercedes was the first domestic car maker to launch a highly automated driving system in 2022, the Drive Pilot. At least on the highway and at speeds under 60 kilometers an hour, drivers can take their hands off the steering wheel and turn their attention to other things. Such technology always raises the question, who is ultimately responsible if an accident occurs? Like in this crash involving a semi-autonomous vehicle in Taiwan. Legal experts are trying to answer that question and others at Germany's highest transport court. With autonomous driving, faulty products rather than driver error will be the prime cause of accidents. So manufacturer liability for drivers will increasingly become a topic of interest. So legal experts are looking for ways to more justly apportion responsibility. One goal is to make it easier to prove when AI is actually to blame for an accident.
There are currently no fully automated vehicles driving on public roads anywhere in the world. There is one, however, that is allowed to drive autonomously in Germany, though only on fields. Artificial intelligence looks set to revolutionize agriculture as well.
At a test farm in the German state of Saxony, an event showcasing the agricultural machinery of the future is about to begin. Machines like these are designed to work the fields autonomously, so without humans on board. Some are powered by solar energy and can turn on a dime. Most are equipped with sensors, lasers, cameras, and GPS receivers, and are controlled by computers. Christoph Miller is competing in the event with a robotic vehicle that also generates all its own energy from a solar array. The Farm Droid is an autonomous weeding robot. It performs the task without the help of chemicals and is therefore eco-friendly. Farm Droid follows rows it made in the field. Using a set of small but sharp blades, it cuts down every plant that it didn't sow itself. With the machine, we plant seeds at predetermined positions and then know later, okay, we've planted something here, so we want to hoe around it. That means we can hoe before the plant is even visible. Farm Droid remembers every spot it sowed a seed and hoes around it. It travels around the field at less than 1 kilometer per hour. It all takes time, it's slow, but that also gives us a very high level of efficiency, and it has 24 hours. Because FarmDroid works around the clock. It has to, because it can't cut weeds that have grown too high. It also only works on flat fields whose soil isn't too clumpy. Because it moves so slowly, however, FarmDroid is so far the only fully autonomous farming vehicle to be allowed out on German fields. Here you can see that it stops when it encounters an obstacle, or just if something gets in the way, whether it's a person, an animal, or an object, so the machine is safe. A few years ago, tractor manufacturer Fendt caused quite a stir with a vehicle design called Xavo. The plan was to use a fleet of small, autonomous, networked tractors instead of a single large one. Farmers would supposedly only have to monitor them from a distance, but the project didn't work out, in part because wireless data networks in the countryside simply weren't powerful enough. Time for the agricultural robots at the event to show off what they can do. Their designers make a final check. The field has been precisely measured using electronics, and the data has been digitized. The digital map that is plotted is then transmitted wirelessly to the robots. The FarmDroid Weeder is the first machine to strut its stuff. It weighs less than a ton, so doesn't compact the soil much. As a side effect, you reduce load on the soil because these machines aren't as heavy as their contemporaries. In a 300 horsepower machine, then the tractor and mounted implements are going to weigh at least 20 tons. So then I'm pulling 20 tons across the field. For engineer Thomas Herlitzius, that's another major advantage of agricultural robots. They can be designed to be lightweight. Robotic systems have a lot of potential for more flexible use with less weight, which leads to significantly less soil compaction. And that ultimately pays off in terms of yield, soil life, and overall field health. The Agbot robot tops the scale at a relatively light 7 tons, and its Caterpillar tracks distribute weight better. That also protects the soil. Light, flexible, maneuverable, more or less automatic, or at times even autonomous. Controlled by humans, but none behind the wheel. The future of agriculture is already a reality on this German field. One that will help make up for a shortage of workers on the country's farms.
If our blood is red, why are our...
Do you have a science question? Then send it to us as a video, text, or voice message. If we answer it on the show, we'll send you a little surprise as a thank you. So come on, just ask. This viewer question comes from Obu A in Ghana.
How long can data be stored? Humans have recorded their languages and their knowledge in the form of drawings and symbols since prehistoric times. On the analog data carriers from back then, clay tablets or stones, much of the information survived for thousands of years. As a result, these ancient data carriers can be read and decoded today. Modern storage devices can carry a lot more data, even though they're a lot smaller. But the lifespan of most CDs and DVDs is estimated at less than 100 years. Data that's stored on the kind of huge servers operated by large companies should theoretically last forever, as long as the data is repeatedly copied and as long as defective hard drives are replaced. In order to keep the ever-increasing amounts of data under control, researchers are developing smaller and smaller storage devices. In the future, synthetic DNA could replace conventional data carriers. These artificially generated genetic strands would have more than 1 million times the capacity of modern hard drives. And the reconstruction of Neanderthal DNA has shown that DNA molecules are still legible after thousands of years. Another method is storing data in quartz. This 5D technology uses nanolasers to write information into 5-dimensional fused quartz at mind-boggling speed. These glass discs the size of coins can store up to 360 terabytes. And they last a very long time, up to 13.8 billion years. Whether or not there's someone in 13.8 billion years who can read the data is another question.
And that wraps up our overview of artificial intelligence here on DW's Science Show. Thanks for joining us, and see you again soon on Tomorrow Today.